All right, guys, if somebody can chat in the conversations on the Skype meeting to let us know you can hear us fine, I'd appreciate it. We're going to get started.
I can hear you.
Okie doke, great.
3, 4.
Thank you.
5,
Thank you.
7,
All right, we got 7 that can hear us.
9.
All right, well, hopefully you all
10.
see the documents that Sandra dropped in the meeting. You should find them there. There's a variety of handouts that you may want to reference as we go through this, and I'll point them out as we hit the different topics. The agenda that I sent out today is a little bit different than the one we sent out earlier, just because things have been developing and wanted to keep it as current as possible as far as the topics. Michael, are you online?
He is.
Michael, can you unmute yourself? We hired our new CIO who replaced David Foshi. He started April 2nd, so he's getting a fun start in this craziness. And I asked that he join the meeting and introduce himself.
Yeah. Chris, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Yeah. Hi, as David, Chris had mentioned, I am Mike Mickey, replacing David Foshi as the CIO. Very excited to be a part of the agency. And definitely look forward to working with each and every one of you guys. I will be sending out some contact information when I get established on my communications as far as cell phones. And as we ramp up some of the projects, Therapy and some other applications, look forward to being in touch and working closely with you guys.
All right, thank you, Michael. You're free to hang out or drop off, whichever you prefer. The next item is situational reports. We have been sending those out fairly regularly, but haphazardly. We don't have a set schedule, right, Rob? Just as topics warrant sending something out. Hopefully folks on this call are getting that report or monitoring it from our website. If you go to our website, you can find our situational reports as well as documents that are underlying and linked within those reports. It's very important that you all monitor that because that's our primary mode of communication during this time to keep you guys informed about what we're doing and different things that are occurring on a daily basis. So it's pretty important that you monitor that. Again, if you're not getting that, you can email the EOC at ddsn.sc.gov email address. That's EOC at ddsn.sc.gov. And we will add you to our distribution list. Otherwise, you can just monitor by visiting our website. Additionally, our website is a great resource for a host of different topics. If you go to our homepage, there's a COVID-19 updates link at the top in red. If you click that, it'll put you through to our COVID-19 page, and then we've also categorized all those documents so it's easier to read and find what you're looking for. So hopefully you all are spending some time looking at that and using that to your benefit. The next item we have is Joyce Kimmery is going to speak early intervention topic. Joyce, are you there? Joyce?
Okay, I think I'm here now.
Yep, we got you.
Oh, that's good. I was trying to figure out how to unmute myself. Thank you for letting me speak for a second about early intervention. All I wanted to do was to remind providers that DHHS has imposed a 16 unit per month per individual limit on early intervention services, and that's for family training and service coordination combined, with an additional 4 units every 6 months for an IFSP team meeting. And this is something very new that just came out last week.
Okay, Joyce, if you'll hold the line real quick, let's make sure, Pat, do we get any questions?
Not yet.
To what Joyce
Nope.
just stated?
Yep.
Okay, Joyce, we'll keep you posted if any questions come in. Will you be hanging on the line? Will you hang on the line
I'll
for a
stay.
little bit?
Yes,
Okay,
I will.
thank
Thank
you.
you, Chris.
All right. Topic number 5, the case management and early intervention money that we've been speaking of in regards to the state appropriation that we've been holding. We finally sent that, or we're going to be sending that out here soon. You should have gotten a memo from Debbie back, it's dated March 27th. and it goes over how we went about calculating this. And, it was imperative that for early intervention that we included baby net units, because if we didn't, we wouldn't properly fund all of our units of service that providers had been providing. So that was part of our delay, waiting on them to generate all that information for us in a usable format. But hopefully you all got that memo, and it's clear as to how we determine the amount we're distributing. We will be sending out the payment April 16th. We should be getting out your, if you're a DSM board and you get a payment schedule, it'll be on there. But if you're a QPL or otherwise get checks or other electronic deposits, it'll be coming as well around that time period. But of course, it won't be on a payment schedule if you don't get a payment schedule. Otherwise, it will be on that document.
I have one EI question.
All right, we have an EI question, Joyce, that Pat's going to repeat for you.
What is the allotment of units for service coordination to get an IFSP or FSP in place for a new referral, that is, ...
Will you repeat that, Pat? I was unmuting myself and you got covered
Okay.
up.
What is the allotment of units for service coordination to get an IFSP or FSP in place for a new referral, that is, ... I have no further.
That's okay. We haven't gotten any additional guidance from DHHS about increasing the allotment of units for initial services. So right now my understanding is it's a 16 unit limit per month, except for the additional 4 units every 6 months for the IFSP team meeting.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, and we'll keep
Thank
you
you.
posted if we get any additional information. HHS is being inundated. We're only a small part of what they have to deal with. If you can imagine the hospital systems and doctors' offices and therapists and you name it. So, we are constantly in front of them and bugging them, but, they've got more than they can say grace over. So we will keep you updated as we learn more. So I think I've fully covered the case management and early intervention retro payment. Again, that was state funds. That was 100% of the money that we were allocated for those 2 programs for that 6-month period. Any match money we have for January 1st going forward is going towards paying for your units that you're billing at the revised rate. At this time, I'm going to ask Andrew Theron to speak a little bit about FEMA. Just realize that this stuff is coming fast and furious at us. He's going to do the best to give you a little bit of background and some guidance. But just keep in mind that as we learn more, again, through the situational reports, we will be keeping you informed of what else we learn. So, Andrew, if you would.
Yeah, just to give you guys a little bit of information on the FEMA stuff, just to kind of give you a heads up, this FEMA grant application process is complicated, and there's a lot to it. So I think the main thing we want to do today is give you guys a heads up and let you know that it's out there. From looking into this stuff, what we can kind of gather so far is that they'll extend this assistance for certain things involving emergencies, and part of that is the preparation up to an emergency and the recovery after an emergency. A lot of the operational costs in actually dealing with the emergency are not covered by these grants. So again, that's preparation and recovery are the 2 categories that they appear to cover. So tracking those costs, things such as purchase of PPEs, before you head into the emergency, or maybe cleaning a facility after the emergency is over with, looks like types of things that they will cover. But again, operational costs during, overtime for employees during an emergency or something like that is not going to be something that they'll cover. I think one thing we want to point to today is that if you go on their website, I think Chris said they're sending out a link to
there's
good information.
There's a handout you should have gotten of one of the PDFs in the meeting for South Carolina Recovery Grants.org. If you will go to that handout, that's what Andrew will be speaking about.
And who's eligible for these reimbursement grants are state and local governments. So that should cover a lot of the county boards, but also private nonprofits that own or operate facilities that provide educational, utility, emergency, medical, or non-critical but essential social services. So I think a lot of our private providers will probably fall in that realm. Again, we're just kind of getting into this stuff, so I can't say that for sure. But I think that's something we're going to be looking into, and like Chris said, we can get information like that into the sit reps if need be. One thing I want to make everybody aware of is the grants portal on the screcovery.gov website. The link that Chris is going to send out's got a link to this, and it gives you how to sign up and basically become an applicant or get into and enrolled into the application process. But I think what we want everyone to do is realize that the grants portal is out there. All applications have to be turned in through this grants portal. So you need to sign up, get a username, password, and everything like that before you can get into the actual application process. And they've got worksheets in there once you do get in to help you kind of figure out the cost or budget cost associated with, again, the preparation and recovery of whatever emergency is open. And I think you've got 30 days from the closure of any incident report to get these applications in. Right now, the incident is still open and active, so we don't know when that would shut down or how long it's going to go on for, but you would have 30 days after they close the incident report to get these applications, get them in. And that's kind of what we've gathered so far. Again, it's a complicated process, so we just recommend that everybody kind of get out there and get signed up for it, kind of start seeing what's out there with regards to the application. So
Again, well, just to be in abundance of caution, we're recommending that you go ahead and sign up in that portal now, because the 30-day period, there's some interpretive issue associated with what they're really trying to say as far as the cutoff period, and I think it would be prudent for everybody that intends to apply to go ahead and do that. And as far as we can tell, these funds will not flow through DDSN, so we need to establish those relationships directly with EMD or FEMA.
That's correct. To bounce off of that, the state governments and state and local governments are allowed to directly apply themselves, so they don't have to go through us. They can, become an applicant and submit applications, through your own organizations. And I think the main thing about this is just to be tracking those costs, throughout this process, and what is preparation and what is recovery. So those are the two main costs I think that they're going to offer rebates for. So
We have one question. They had a question about locating the handouts via the email. So if you can just retell them as to how to get to all the
They should be in the Skype meeting. There should be handouts right there on your computer. If you're not attending on Skype and you've just called in, we will need to email those to you, or we can throw them out on the
sit rep.
SITREP
Put on SITREP.
as resources.
a link to those
Okay.
PDFs you're talking about.
And Chris,
so
those documents are available. It's Susan. Hey, I'm seeing them here. If everyone just goes to that on their Skype screen, if they hover over the little computer screen with the arrow, there's a red dot, which means the documents are there, and I see 6.
All right, that's it. Great, thank you, Susan. Any questions on FEMA? We probably won't have many answers for you right now, but be glad to try and field anything if you have anything at this point. I'm going to go ahead and move on, and then Pat will let me know if something pops up. The next topic was day program rate setting. Obviously, we were hot and heavy on that, and this whole situation has disrupted our flow as it relates to that project, but we are not forgetting that project is out there. Hopefully in May we can begin starting our conversations again in regards to the rate setting. For those of y'all that don't know what I'm talking about, we are in the process of trying to establish a fair rate to advocate on behalf of the provider network with HHS to get a fair rate for providers, so that as we move fee for service, the rate we establish is viable for you all. So that project, we're still crunching numbers on this side. It hasn't ended here. But as far as any information requests or any meetings, those are all kind of on pause. Okay, anything on that? All right, contract unit requirements for day program. What I'm referring to here is for all non-ICF day slots, we have a 520 unit maximum requirement for each of those slots based on their prorated date of entry into the system. We have an 80% attendance requirement or a 20% absences permitted requirement in our contracts right now, and I know everybody is doing the math, and prior to this hitting, statewide, we were around 72% attendance, and now we're crunching numbers for March as those logs come in, trying to see where we are for March, using a March 16th closure date, because that is the date we think statewide that you all started closing your programs. But we're needing to crunch some numbers. So let me just kind of give you some background on our part. For those providers that are not fee-for-service, we do have some fee-for-service day program providers right now that are not getting paid anything at all. They have zero revenues if they're not generating any units. So their businesses are really suffering, and they're having to really be creative to manage that. For our providers that are in the band system, we're still paying you the full band, and the contract as it stands currently requires you to meet 80% attendance based on the last contract amendment that Deborah Leopard has issued. Typically, we've allowed providers to request adjustments to that for hurricanes and other closures. Obviously, this is a significant closure that we're going to have to address. The problem we're having is that while we're paying all the providers band payments still and have not affected what we're paying out, our revenue stream is detrimentally impacted to the extent of at least $1 million per week that we're losing. So if the day program's closed March 16th and they're going to stay closed until May or later, obviously our ability to continue to fund these capitated payments is impaired. We're going to have to come up with another solution. So we're looking at our options. Just realize that we can't continue to pay out $1 million a week when we're generating no revenue or very little. So a couple things I'll say is please focus really hard on providing day services to the extent you can, currently in residential settings or otherwise, because whatever solution we come up with, we're going to have to figure out what kind of loss we're taking. So to the extent our providers are able to keep us whole, the adjustment we'll need to make is that much less. So it's very, very important that y'all are capturing your units, that you're driving every opportunity to generate billings, because you need to close that revenue gap for us. It's significant. In fact, I said we're losing $1 million a week. It's really $1.5 million. I'm projecting that we're probably going to generate about $500,000 a week, possibly at the highest level, probably, if you guys are out there doing day services still. So assuming that you're billing $500,000 a week, that's where that million's coming from. So the other thing, so we'll be looking at the 80% attendance and be advising you sometime shortly in regards to what we're going to be doing there. Also, I forwarded you in the documents, you'll see a copy of our proviso and our contract that we have in regards to our 90% spending limit and our 3-month reserve in regards to our ability to end those or claw back if needed to keep us whole. So all these things are on the table. Obviously, we need to maintain our providers in a healthy state, so we're not going to implement anything that is over the top, but we do have to consider all things that are out there and figure out what's most viable as we go forward. I know there's probably a ton of questions.
Got one? Oh, they're coming in fast and furious. First question, with the FMAP will the FMAP increase not help with day units? Question mark. If we are going to reduce later, we need to know sooner than later to make business decisions. What about the extra cost we are having in residential for first shift?
All right, so the FMAP question. First of all, we have not been able to get a solid answer for Medicaid on our FMAP. The numbers that they're giving us are jumping all over the place. We're not positive that the amount of money we're going to be getting is enough to offset the day program attendance. We're getting a 6.2% increase in FMAP, but that number compared to day program losses almost wipe it out. Not to mention that if we're giving the providers ban B's and I's, but the consumers are unable to access those resources like in-home PCA and respite services and so forth because the caregivers won't come into the caregivers won't come into the home, or the families don't want them in the home. Basically, all that funding is being generated at a provider level, and our recoupments and our ability to bill for services again is impaired. So we're not only losing on the day side, but we're also losing on the in-home side. We're going to be looking at all that data and crunching it to see how much damage that is to assess that. As far as residential increases, we're going to ask that providers share their financial information with us more routinely than quarterly, probably. I've talked to Mary and Pat and said we really need to start getting some more detailed financial information and quick so that we can assess this. I've tried to identify, with my years of experience on the provider side, how this actually is impacting you all. I'm trying to visualize, okay, we don't have any gas bills are down, we don't have food in the day program if you're serving meals. And of course, if you have USDA food program, that's revenue lost. There's a variety of changes there related to that. If you're using your day program staff in your residence, depending upon your staffing patterns in your homes, that could theoretically be a break even there. Again, not knowing all the details, the devil's in the details. If you're in two staff on first shift and you don't have enough day program staff to go around because your residential program's really large, yeah, that could be a problem. And also getting information from Medicaid to know what's going on with these direct billed services. Y'all have board billed services, but we don't see them because you're doing that at your board. So the only information we're going to have is what's billed directly to Medicaid, and we're in the process of trying to crunch those numbers as well. So there's just a lot of moving pieces, and that's a valid concern, and we are sympathetic to that. We're not aware of that issue. So what I will say to answer that particular question specifically, we're probably going to need data from some of you all. If you think this is going on at your provider, we need to see it. We need to understand it because, we're up here trying to look at all the different you've got such a variance in providers out there with residential program size, how many day programs they have, whether they can generate day program billings or not in their residences because they, some of you may only have 2 houses, for example, and others have, 40 houses. So it's really all over the map. And so to come up with a one-size-fits-all question is impossible. There are 2 other questions, Pat said.
Yep. We have, when doing the final calculations for attendance for this year, there were some of us who also had to close for hurricane closures, and this would need to be factored into those specific providers as well.
Correct.
Next one. Just wanted to confirm that the 6.2% FMAP increase will be applied across all services, ... EI, CM, etc.
Well, the FMAP is to assist us to fund to continue funding our programs. We don't have the ability to issue a retainer payment or anything like that. So the FMAP is to replace our lost billing capacity for day programs and residential. We're also seeing a drop in residential billing. We're going to get into the 60-day vacancy versus 30-day vacancy, and we also have folks that are going on more home visits and staying out a lot more than they used to. So our residential billing is down. Plus we've never been funded by HHS fully for the residential rate or the day rate. So we already had about $11 million that we were losing with Medicaid, And now they're distracted with this COVID thing. We can't even get them to the table to even talk about that issue. And so we've got, $20 million out there that we don't even know if we're going to get. And then the FMAP money is just merely an increase in our revenue so that we can patch holes where we see them. But there is no plan currently to distribute that in any way to providers. It's to shore up our existing funding system. Do you have anything to add to that, Pat?
I will go back. There's so many wheels in motion, and because of the band system, it creates such complexity as to where the money's sloshing around that we have to do analysis to see all these issues. And every issue is a relevant issue, but we got to get a hold of all those issues and then look at the money available and figure out how we're going to plug these gaps in the most equitable and fairest way. So until the numbers settle, there is no plan. But I do believe the point of emphasis I'd like to go with Chris is the day program is $1.5 million a week that DDSN is absorbing, and we can't absorb it. So we need your help in marshaling your resources to do what you can in the residential setting. And then we have to get that on that very quickly, just like the person said here. If we're going to make any type of adjustments, we got to give you enough lead time to adjust your businesses to match the money available. So it is fluid, but it's.
And we don't have the money available. We've run our own numbers. And we're getting, 3 different answers from Medicaid and no money yet. We haven't gotten any cash. And the issue is, to be blunt, if it were not for the FMAP, we would have had to cut day rate funding now. We would have already sent y'all a memo, said we are not going to be able to fund these, because we're only projecting a $800,000 surplus at year end. That's less than a week's billing in day program. So the FMAP has given us the ability to continue to fund day services in the band system. But again, that's using the majority of that FMAP money in just 1 or 2 service lines. So, we've got to figure all that out.
We have 3 comments. Just a cautionary note that some providers are starting to provide incentive pay because staff don't want to come to work because they feel at risk. So there may be more expenses than we expect. Second one, there are holes in case management as we are only able to draw down a non-face-to-face no travel rate. Therefore, we are losing in case management. And the third comment is I am concerned that the FEMA grants and federal loan programs that may expire before DSN decides what to do, and if it takes money from providers, then we will miss assistance. As far as the FEMA grants go, I've done some research with Andrew, is those grants do not have to be applied for until 30 days after the closure of the emergency by FEMA. And I can project that's way downstream, so that's not a crunch number. I will have to defer to Chris when it comes to the small business loans. I think that's a legitimate question. What's the timing of that?
Well,
in relation to what we do? Because
I think the stimulus loan programs, that the money that's approved sounds massive, but it's a drop in the bucket as to what our economy really needs. I think there's going to be a lot of competition for those funds. In fact, I know a couple providers have told me that banks have quit taking applications because they've been overwhelmed with the applications. The issue is there are already other existing funds through SBA and other sources that are not tied. You have to repay them. They're not these forgivable versions. So there are other resources out there that you can tap into potentially. The thing is, that's not my area of expertise, and I've said it multiple times in writing and in these meetings. Y'all need to build your own crew out there that researches this stuff on your behalf and shares it with everyone. I think everyone out there fending for themselves or relying on DDSN, that's not a good solution. I think you guys need to band together and share resources and really help each other, because it's a lot of information. There's probably 15 resources out there that you all can identify as a group. There's foundations and GoFundMe pages and not, federal programs, state programs, FEMA programs, SBA programs, it's all over the place. We'll do all we can to feed you information and support you, but it's a lot to digest, and I'm only one person, and I know Andrew's doing what he can on the FEMA side, but I don't want you overly relying on me and miss out on an opportunity that's out there for you just because I'm not able to get around to it and share it with you. I agree expenses might go up in regards to incentive payments. Unfortunately, we're all in a real bad pickle in regards to this virus, and I mean, folks being asked to go into war basically with an invisible enemy, that's scary. I mean, if somebody's got kids or whatever, and whatever. I mean, you don't need to have kids for your life to be important. I'm just saying a lot of folks, are very, very worried about their livelihood and their ability to continue to exist. So, I mean, I understand that, but we don't have any funding at this time to promise y'all for that, and you're really out there on your own currently. Just be very prudent with what you arrive at, and unfortunately, we're not alone. Other states and other systems are dealing with these same dilemmas. The only thing I can say is kick it to Rufus as far as, really explore, how are we dealing with it at regional centers and ensuring that we have good PPE, good training, what type of insight can you share?
Of course, and of course, with the new expanded protections for employees, we tried to educate our personnel on the front lines that one, we have an obligation to the folks that we serve with, and we're trying to balance that with protecting them as our employees and by providing them adequate PPE and education about ways to prevent the spread of infection. And so we've done a lot of things. We meet daily with our leadership at the regional centers, but we have not instituted any kind of enhanced pay. We are seeing a rise in call-outs daily, primarily due to childcare. In today's situation report, we'll talk about or communicate. We have had some confirmed positives, and kudos to the staff who are working around the clock to care for those individuals who are sick. A couple individuals are hospitalized, and that's in the regional centers and in the community. But this is a fluid situation. It's unprecedented, and all we can do is support our workforce the best we can. But DDSN, to your point, we haven't received any additional appropriations to do anything relative to enhanced payment or hazard pay.
Question, clarify, are you considering seeking an amount for day programs residential bands?
Everything is going to be considered. We have to crunch numbers. Once we get the FMAP number, which is still unknown, the management team here has to come together and figure out what are we leaking, what are we losing, and what are we bringing in. And then not everybody on this call has a day program. Other folks have other services where they're needing help as well. So to take every dollar of our FMAP and throw it into day services as a solution is really that's not very fair on our part. So we've got to look at all service lines. We got to look at all availability. We have a jet flying over, so I'm gonna give it a minute. That's pretty loud. Pat, Pat and I have been talking. I don't know to what point you want to comment here, but I mean, we have to look at what our business model is going to look like going forward, because we're even worried about day programs and what the future is going to look like if folks are worried the rest of this calendar year. I don't want my son or daughter going into a group setting. I mean, I understand the COVID's gone, but that still scares me. So, I mean, we may have a whole service delivery change. Anybody want to comment on that?
I would comment. You have the financial issue that we're talking about, and we're going to crank those numbers, and we're going to find equity once we get the numbers. But part of the whole day program solution is not only what's the immediate short-term issue, but services that meet the social distancing requirements. And we need your expertise as providers as to what do you anticipate happening when the situation loosens up and possibly we can go back? Are we going to come back at that same level? Do we have to anticipate needs? Do we have to anticipate other services? Do we have to amend Appendix K in order to find services to fill those gaps? I mean, there's a lot of decisions and information the next 2 or 3 weeks that we got to crank through. And I think this whole conversation is just to open the conversation that there's an issue out there that we are collectively going to have to zero in on as a delivery service.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, doing my math, maybe $60 million in lost revenue for a year. If we have no day program, that's not sustainable. FMAP's not even going to touch that. The top number I've estimated is about 45 million for a year. So we've definitely got some decisions to figure out. Rufus, did you have a comment in regards to day service or anything?
No, we'll be talking about it more because I think that everybody realizes that the way that we did business yesterday is not going to be the way we do business tomorrow. You know, so post-COVID, there are going to be a lot of decision points that we're going to have to make as a system and as a state. And so we're going to be relying on the people that provide the service to help us devise how we move forward.
And we're also watching other states because they're grappling with the same things. We're not the only state out there that has day programs. In fact, I'm pretty sure everyone in the U.S. does. So it's very important. We're tapping into all national resources. Mary's very involved in several national organizations. We're monitoring tons of email, newsletters, and different periodicals. So we realize we've got to consider everything, including your ideas, but not reinvent the wheel if there's a state out there that's really got it figured out. And Pat's indicating that we are continuing to get more and more questions.
On top of DDSN potentially reducing funding at some point in the future, does DDSN anticipate a state budget reduction in fiscal year 2021? I'll answer that. We have no information on a reduction in the budget. We have been told, or the likelihood that we're going to have a continuing resolution as of July 1st.
Tomorrow.
Well, it'll be effective July 1st. So our funding is steady from this year until some future point when they pass the budget. And I can't predict that, but I have had no indication either way. The next question is, what are you doing or planning to do to make sure providers are doing all they can in homes to be able to claim day program units? Some may need help or fearful that if they claim units, they will not be permissible.
That is totally correct. So the next item on the agenda I was going to get to is to really be sensitive to getting your logs in. We have 2 very large providers that still have not submitted their logs yet. We are crunching. We are actually looking at actual day units delivered from March 16th through the end of March. We are going to use that data to identify which providers are not capturing billing. From there, determine if they're not actually providing the service or they don't know how to capture it, and use that as a springboard into, a coaching or a learning opportunity. Because I agree, it's very unique. It's hard you got to communicate it agency-wide. You've got all new processes that you're having to do. Your desal process is not linked to your residential programs. You've got folks in residential, I'm assuming, having to communicate to day program staff. So yes, I agree, and that's why I've got a guy right now on staff. He's crunching these numbers as we speak, and we hope to identify exactly what you just asked, and I appreciate the question.
Next question, what is happening with adult day health centers?
They're getting 0. They're closed, I guess. They don't get anything. They are able to bill, I guess there's a Schedule K, has something in there about maybe nursing or something potentially, but they're one of these businesses that have been hammered. I mean, they have no cash flow whatsoever unless they're providing service. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Yeah, you were. Okay. Any others, Pat? We are sympathetic to the providers. We realize you guys are suffering. We're all suffering together. We've got to just find a viable solution going forward. And, hopefully you trust us to communicate and give y'all information as soon as we can and be fair about it. It's very unique, and we don't have a map drawn out in the sand for us to follow. So we're going to be creating, as we go and try to make the best decisions as possible. The other thing I would like to state is we put the monitoring, we created an Excel spreadsheet, and we put it out on Business Tools under the contract information link folder. We would like to ask that everybody use that tool or something similar. We need you watching your attendance. We needed it before this. We need it even more now. So we need providers establishing internally a process to monitor their attendance percentages. We have developed a statewide report through February related to attendance and where all the providers are. We're trying to develop a report format similar to what we did for case management, where we can break folks down into size and quartiles and all that. But we have crunched the numbers. We've created the system. So hopefully here in the next 30 days or less, you'll start getting some information. And again, it'll be discrete so that you'll have to know your provider number. But that information should be coming soon. But we need you to do something internally to do your own monitorship. And in that spreadsheet is instructions tab. And we will be glad to do one-on-one support for you if you have questions on how to use that tool. Debbie Wilson and Deborah Leopard have indicated they would be more than happy to get on a call, share screens or whatever, to go over how to use that. But we do think providers need to get that discipline in place to monitor their own attendance. Let's see. So the next item was day program unit billing during closures. We do need folks to get their logs in more quickly than ever before, not only for cash flow purposes, but for analytical purposes. I've been pulling, with MidOrder's help, some data out of their app in regards to day activities, but it's really not usable. I can't discern what folks are actually able to bill based on the ISP data that I've gotten. So I'm not actually going to know anything until you guys get your logs turned in. So unless we can create some kind of interim process where you can share data with us so we don't have to wait 30 days in between measuring, that's all we have available to us. So if you would really get those, make sure, and y'all have done great, actually. We've been watching this very closely for March because obviously we're wanting to get data as soon as possible. For the most part, everybody on this call has done their job and gotten those in. We've got very few providers that have not. So thank you very much for that. And then to reiterate, we are going to analyze, we're going to do some kind of analysis as far as how big residential programs are and what type of percentage day attendance folks are generating in regards to a comparison to their residential size. I don't know if any of y'all out there are able to do any other billing outside your residential program as far as out in the community or anything. I'm assuming most of that's been shut down at this point. But if that's an option as well, I'd love to hear it because I don't know what folks are doing out there with all these closed businesses. I'm sure that's just gone unless you're doing mobile work crews or something. Any questions, Pat?
One comment that we still have enclaves working.
Great. So one provider indicated they have enclaves working. If you can really consider that, consider the health and safety of the folks first, but to the extent you can continue to provide services like that, that's great for the consumers, and it's great for us, and it's great for your staff. So if you can do that, that'd be awesome. We did issue a memo asking that folks honor the 20% absences for the third-party contracts. Hopefully there's no questions on that, but after looking at all the rules and everything, we felt that was fair, that folks continue to pay for that because we're covering it for you. So until we change that process as far as our attendance requirements, we ask that you continue honoring those invoices, and if you're on the flip side of that, you can invoice your customers for the absences that are provided for in your contracts. Hopefully you all have contracts. If you don't, this should be a good point to realize you need a contract. Those contracts are on Business Tools under Contract Info. You can go out there and grab those templates and use those to enter into agreements with one another. Next item is our accounting issues related to this COVID-19. Oh, Lordy. I even hate to bring some of this up. We really need to make sure that we're capturing our Medicaid costs properly. With day staff working in residences and residences generating day units, as you can see, there's a real likelihood of not really capturing costs properly. I've been working with Debbie Wilson to come up with a memo to issue in regards to guidance as to how to capture cost properly during this period. What I need you to do is just kind of be thinking about this and kind of the initial thoughts I will give you, with more coming in a memo or guidance, is if you have day program staff working in a home, you need to be charging their salaries to that home. So I think most payroll systems use their home department and probably charging their salaries still to day program, which is not appropriate. So you need to fix that and get that in the residential homes costs. To the extent you have day program billable units, I'm going to issue some guidance on how I think you would charge back day cost from within the residential program back to the day program for day units. I know that sounds confusing, but that cost is residential cost right now. And then to the extent you're able to bill day program, we've got to establish some process to properly capture that small piece of those activities. You also need to be tracking your FEMA expenses, as Andrew and Pat mentioned. So those are big accounting issues that you need to be thinking about. Also, your quarterly financial information for March is not due to the end of April, but can you please accelerate that to the extent possible? Again, we need to analyze how you guys are doing. We need to be aware of what impact this is having on you, positively or negatively. We might implement a monthly reporting process. I need to see what March is going to look like. But again, the April information, if we do ask for that, it's so that we have more information to make good decisions. I mean, we don't want to make bad decisions just because we have a view of the world out there. We need data to do so. Also, FASB and GASB are delaying standards most likely. I know the GASB's meeting today to discuss delaying the lease standard and what's the other big one? There's fiduciary activities. So those as well as some FASBs that are out there, they're considering delaying those. I will try and keep you posted on that. The reason that matters is that helps you in regards to preparing for your audits, as that takes a lot of energy to implement some of these standards. And I was already concerned. One of the reasons we're having our training we're having with Melissa Galasso is I really don't know that providers are really ready for these, and this is not an auditor job, this is a finance director job. So we need to make sure that our finance directors really have good guidance on that. So I will keep you posted in the sit rep on the GASB and FASB decisions. So watch out for that. Pat, got a question?
Can you repeat the information about charging residential for day program staff coverage of the homes?
Really, all I'm going to repeat is that I'm going to get you some guidance in writing. At this point, you can discuss it and think about it and send me an email if you have ideas. But basically, my point was, if you're providing day program in a residence, we have to somehow capture day program costs still in the day program. So I have been tweaking and working with some different scenarios, trying to figure out what best to recommend. And all I can tell you right now is that something will be coming to give you what I recommend. If you've already implemented this at your agency or you have good ideas, please email me, because I'm doing the best I can to cobble together this stuff. And if we got some folks on the line that that have great ideas, I want to hear them. So,
We have a provider that has a lot of experience with FEMA, United Cerebral Palsy, and they said they're going to share their information and experiences with the group.
great. Now, UCP, how would you go about sharing that information? Do you want us to distribute that on your behalf, or do you have a distribution list, or how would you like to distribute that information? And I appreciate you offering that.
Thank you.
All right. While we wait on that answer, I'm going to let Rufus talk about our 60-day vacancy rule.
Yes, and and thank you, UCP. And what I would ask is that any information you disseminate, copy eoc@ddsn.sc.gov so that we stay abreast of any information that's shared, and for anything pertinent, we can add to our situation reports.
UCP said they're going to send us the information and then we'll disseminate it across.
Perfect. Effective February 13th, we extended the number of days for funding vacancies in residential settings. We increased the days from 30 to 60, effective February 13th, and that is effective during the state of emergency and applies to intermittent vacancies and vacancies due to discharges and transfers. And so we realized that during this time that some providers are electing to continue to fill their vacancies, and we appreciate that activity. If there's any kind of barriers, communicate that to your regional rep or our office, so that we can make sure that we do everything we can to help those who are in crisis secure a bed during this time of emergency. But we really do appreciate all of the providers that have been steadfast in working with us to try to help those in crisis and fill beds. So that's an important activity.
Yeah, so again, back to our calculation that we need to do in regards to our lost revenues and our FMAP revenues we'll be generating. To the extent we have residential vacancies out there and you folks aren't filling them and we're funding those beds, it just contributes to the negativity in that calculation. So to the extent you can get those filled and keep those beds filled, we appreciate that effort. And in the end, it'll help the provider network as we look at, our funding availability. Every little bit helps. The next item, we relaxed the bonus incentives requirement that you have us approve any plan. You're free to do that, whatever you feel is necessary. We want to make that as open and available as possible. The only thing we ask is if you would please document this so that we can see that it's properly carried out with the intent of your board. We do recommend that you talk to your board. We're not requiring that, but I do think it's prudent to do so, and that there be some type of memo or document on file so that if you do get audited, we can show that we complied with that and there was no favoritism or something outside the parameters that were intended. And we also need to make sure that everyone's aware how to properly report these items. I'm afraid folks might be given gift cards or other types of non-cash incentives, and you need to properly capture that in your payroll system. If you need assistance with how to do that, again, you can email me or Debbie Wilson or our financial.techsupport@ddsn.com.gov, and we'll be glad to support you with how to gross those up and get those into your payroll system. Anything, Pat? All right, the recovery rebate checks, again, we're keeping a close eye on this. The real issue currently is that right now, still, as of today, if you're a SSI only recipient and a VA recipient or beneficiary, you have to file a tax return to get your stimulus check. A group of senators have written a letter to the Treasury, and they are asking that, and I agree wholeheartedly. I don't understand why they can't automate this. Basically, the letter states that, hey, look, you're already doing this for SSA recipients and railroad folks. Why can't you do it for these people too? It's kind of dumb that they have to file a tax return just to get a check when you have all the data you need to issue the check. So I think that's going to end up being approved. It's kind of a no-brainer, honestly. But at this point, you still have to have filed a return. So I don't know if you want to just hold off and wait and see what happens. I can't imagine them taking more than a week and a half to answer this request. You know, if it takes longer than that, then I would say we probably need to start filing returns because they're struggling with that idea and might not implement it. So what we do need to make sure is that they've made it perfectly clear this is not income. It is not to be counted in your HUD eligibility, your SNAP eligibility, your SSA or SSI income resources, or your asset resources as you look at these programs that are based on need. I would recommend that you track receipt of this, that you have a process to ensure that everyone gets their check and there's no fraud occurring. And I'm not speaking especially internal to your organization. There have been many, many scam alerts already issued that are saying that this is a vulnerable population and that we fully expect people to get taken advantage of. And there's always somebody out there looking for a way to take advantage of this elderly or disabled population. Even if you have folks living at home and you're a case manager, I don't know if that's a billable activity or not, but please educate your families and advocate for them and ensure that they're getting their money. Also, if you have a consumer that owes you back amounts for room and board or any other receivables, you know, we don't have any issue with you using these funds to catch the board up for that, but it should not be counted as income in applying the room and board for the month that it's received. It is an asset and is available for any receivables that might be owed or payables, but should not be counted in the income for room and board application. Are there any questions on that, Pat?
Nope.
All right. The state issued, as a result of the governor's executive order, this will be in the sit rep today. They have allowed us to exercise emergency procurement as an interim procedure. What that means is if you would normally be required to bid something and it really doesn't meet the emergency requirements of old, the fact that you really need to make this procurement quickly and need to get, you know, it's really going to hurt the consumers or otherwise impair your ability to take care of your folks. You're allowed to apply the emergency procurements to that particular procurement. So I've got guidelines coming out today. If you'll look out for that, it just opens up the amount of procurements you can do without having to actually bid it out. Now, just be forewarned, this does not mean you can run out and just start doing all kinds of procurements and call it an emergency. It has to be tied to the care of the consumers and tied to this COVID situation. And you need to document it because your auditors are going to be questioning this. When we do the auditor training, we're going to ask the auditors to pull some of these transactions and make sure they look it over. So please document why it's an emergency and put it with your either your invoice or where you keep your bid data. That varies by agency, so I don't know how you do that filing. But I would just put a memo in there and explain it so that there's a history there, because you know audits can be 6 years from now even. So yeah, you might only think about your year-end audit coming up, but if you get pulled for an audit, you know, in 5 or 6 years, I don't know if you're going to remember what you did there and why. Any questions on that, Pat?
Nope.
All right, year-end processes. We're going to be sending out all of our year-end memos here soon. We might make some small changes to the FTE reports we're having a real problem with consistency, and really I can't blame the providers for that. We've not really done well at DDSN training or conveying to providers how their FTE reports should be completed. So we're getting the kitchen sink, as you might imagine. You know, some folks, for example, turn in hourly rates we have no idea how many hours they're working. We don't get annual figures. We get folks that provide coverage in their FTEs and others that don't, people that put their vacancies in their FTE reports and others that don't, people that give us detail for every single employee instead of rolling it up into job categories and summary. So it's kind of all over the place, and it makes it hard for us to analyze things and do things consistently when we're getting all those different versions. Also, we're going to have to crack down on our year-end close process. They've been really loosey-goosey with that in the past year. We have gotten chastised by the state for not closing our year properly and having all these transactions occurring, out in September, October, November. I mean, we paid stuff in January, I think, for last fiscal year. So it's crazy. We can't keep doing that. So the memo that comes out probably in May will really give you a hard deadline, and we need to stick to it. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on you to think of all these things, and we're going to try and help you. Debbie and I have been trying to come up with a checklist of the typical things that boards bill us for, so that you can use that as a mental checklist to go through and make sure that you've thought of everything. So we're not trying to cut you out of any money. It's just we got to get to a point where our year end is meaningful. With all these transactions crossing years, we can't even give accurate information or commission at this point. So be on the lookout for that. Galasso training session got moved to May 7th. I did that because I really want this to be face-to-face training. We do feel strongly that virtual training is not as good as face-to-face. People get distracted. They have other things going on in their office or their home, and it's hard to sit in front of a computer, for 6 hours. So our goal still is to hold this in person. Of course, Rob told me today that we're thinking our peak is like in May for the state as far as our cases.
That's right.
So that doesn't bode well for our May 7th date. That probably is going to have to stay, but be virtual. If it goes virtual, well, I'm not positive we're going to be able to offer CPE, but we'll do what we can. Melissa does offer virtual CPE. CPE for virtual classes is just typically she charges more for that, and we did not pay for that. But she might be flexible and throw that in. So anyways, that is going to be the date. It's just a matter of whether we're going to do it virtual or in person, and we're leaning towards virtual right now, unfortunately. If you've paid $50 or $10 or whatever to attend this, we will we're going to refund the $10 checks for those that paid that. For those that paid $50 because they're an outside provider, we'll probably refund a portion of that as well, because part of that cost was due for paying for a meal for everybody that was in attendance. All right, the auditor training, we had some pushback from a multitude of folks commenting on the auditor policy that they didn't think the mandatory training was necessary. So we kind of bent that a little bit and put the wording in there that was highly recommended, that the auditors do it. We're going to see how our participation flushes out. If we don't get auditor participation making it highly recommended, then we are going to make it mandatory. Because honestly, and I know I've said this before, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything. It's just we're getting some really poor quality work turned in, both financial statements from QPLs, AUPs from QPLs, some board stuff. The boards generally are a little bit better because they've just been doing it for so long, and there's been better guidance over the years to that group. So we really feel like we've got to step up and provide training, because auditors are doing, there is no school for auditors for this. So we've got to create the school. We do plan on providing CPE. I've researched those rules, and it will be provided to those that need CPE. Again, it's not going to be mandatory, but it's going to be it is highly recommended. We will be tracking which auditors do come and which ones don't. And those that don't come, we will actually make them a higher risk in regards to our desk reviews. They will be under higher scrutiny than those that actually attended the session. So, that's an incentive. And the auditor training will cover those performing audits and agreed upon procedures. And again, the agreed upon procedures is a real big concern based on the quality there that we're seeing. So if you have a CPA that doesn't do an audit for you, just an agreed upon procedure, they still need to plan on attending this when we announce it. And hopefully we'll do that in May. Probably a couple times actually in May and June, because if we're going to make something mandatory / highly recommended, we can't just offer it once and expect it to fit everybody's schedule. So we'll probably provide it 2 or 3 times between now and June 30th. And then of course, again in November, December, because we have some folks that are calendar year. And we do recommend that the clients come to that auditor training so that they hear what their auditor is being asked to do and that y'all are on the same page when you leave the session. Again, that's probably going to be virtual again.
Okay, that was the question. Is it going to be virtual
And
again?
if it's virtual, I don't know that I can offer CPE because that requires certain attendance checks and so forth that are not built into our capabilities. So I may call the Department of Labor and might call LLR and see if they can give me some guidance on how we might be able to offer CPE, even if it is virtual, which it probably will be. At least
Yes.
the early May ones will be. If we offer this 2 or 3 times, it's possible as we get later in the year, we can do it in person. Okay.
Yep.
The quarterly finance basic training is May 28th. We're still planning on holding that. We have 14 folks signed up right now to attend. This is the one where it's the same topics over and over, and we've had really, really good participation at these. Folks that have even been in the system a long time are coming and learning things in it. So I'm going to send that link out again. As y'all know, Casey's no longer with us, so she's the one that handled this, and I will get another link sent out for y'all to register if you want an opportunity to sign up. Again, that's potentially at risk of being in person. It might have to be virtual as well, but again, we intend to hold it. Finally, the last topic is a question and answer session, just in case there's topics we did not hit. This is open to any topic whatsoever. It did not have to be one of our agenda items. So we'll give a few minutes for folks to type their question in or unmute themselves and speak up. No questions.
Nothing yet. We'll give them a little more time.
Going to be going once, twice, and sold here soon.
You can open your mic and
Right.
do it verbally if you want to get it quicker. Here's a question. Any update you can provide on PPE? Rufus.
Yeah, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division has the lead in terms of being the recipient in this state for PPE that's being deployed from the national emergency stockpile. There have been a couple of shipments to arrive in South Carolina, and so if you're not receiving updates from your local emergency management division coordinator or representative, we sent out a list of who those contacts were in one of our prior situation reports. Pull that information and definitely be in contact with those individuals. We sent out we try to send out updated vendor lists, and so believe it or not, as recent as last Friday, we were able to procure a small amount of personal protection equipment from the same vendor list that we sent to you guys. You know, it is hit and miss. We were able to get a few masks that are not N95, but they were KN95 is what the vendor is Aplaya out of Greenville. And the gentleman mentioned that he had potentially bought a lot, and so that he would have some for immediate release, but as of this week, he stated that he would have more coming in. He indicated to us that he bought over 1 million masks. We were able to buy some hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes, and then there are a few vendors that have face shields. To date, the only thing that we haven't been able to procure to replenish what we have on hand at our regional centers is disposable gowns. But so the PPE vendor list, like I said, if you guys are having success through vendors that are not listed, please share that so we can add it to our situation report. We're all in this together, and so we don't have any private sources that we have access to that we hadn't shared with the provider network.
And I'm pretty sure that the national stockpile has been pushed out by the county emergency managers. But also keep in touch with your county emergency manager, because like Rufus said, that is your conduit. DHEC has a ordering system, but and they're doing bulk purchases of PPE, but the county emergency managers have they are the conduit to where they're getting, how DHEC is pushing that out, just like they did with the national stockpile. So your county emergency manager can put in an order for you. And it's, we've got an order in. It hasn't come in yet, but it's supposed to be any day now for some PPE through that process. I will let you know. We'll keep you posted in the sit reps how that goes. But you can put in an order with your county emergency manager as well.
Any updates on outliers?
No.
Okay.
Where we are stuck is still trying to work through the programmatic review of this. It's always been, from my experience with the outlier process, it has always felt so subjective. And we have tossed around utilizing 3 different assessment tools: the ICAP, the HRST, and the CIS or something. I don't know. There's several. The problem is trying to really come up with a solid grading scale in regards to the programmatic side. Now we can pretty much roll it out from the fiscal perspective. A lot of folks won't like that approach, probably because we're going to look heavily at your cash reserves and your existing profit or loss. And, if you're losing money, we're not going to just throw money at a losing agency without first analyzing their operations to validate that it's a funding issue and not a spending issue. If you're one of those providers out there that runs a tight ship and you're like, y'all are just throwing all this money at X provider and they don't run very effectively or economically, why are you throwing all this money at them? They need to, make the hard decisions like we do. That's a real issue. And we do know there are providers out there that fit that. So we're trying to ensure that funding is going to those areas where funding is warranted. We want to make sure that it's fair. The contract and every other document out there, the directives and so forth clearly state that providers are to use all resources to serve the consumers, and this is not a per individual funding decision. It's really collective. You got winners and losers, to use Tom Waring's terminology he used to always use, which, I don't care for the terminology, but it's true. So, if I have, 30 people that I'm, quote, making money serving, why would I select one person that meets the outlier threshold and expect additional funds for them? I mean, if we want to go through and right size the funding for everybody served, there'll be people losing money because they're overfunded as far as a band. So we want to make it fair. Up to this point, we've had no money. So what we would have to do is take money from providers to give money to others, which of course comes with its own set of risks and making people mad. So that's been the delay. If your agency is really, really struggling financially, make sure you make me aware of this, because the outlier process is kind of stalled and we don't want you drowning. So we'll see what we can do, but right now we've afforded no new outliers at all. And we know there are funded Band Bs out there that y'all aren't even serving anymore, that folks owe us $60,000, $70,000 back. And we've just continued to fund them because, again, we want to be able to push with one hand and pull back with the other. We don't want to just pull back. So we've got to come up with a fair system, and hopefully we can make this decision soon because the year's about over.
We have one comment, just a recommendation. SIS does not capture the healthcare side of assessment. HRST does.
That's why we need multiple assessments. Right.
We got two questions. Where did you say the day attendance template is on the portal?
It's under business tools, under contract information folder.
Okay.
And it should say something similar to day program monitorship tool. It's Excel file.
Now we have another question on PPE. It says, we have been in touch several times, nothing EOC. Gowns are not found, period. Providers have all been contacting the same vendors, period. Many of us are resorting to making our own, period.
Rob's monitoring EOC traffic daily, so I don't know whether you meant EOC or EMD. I was just responding to an email from a provider that sent me offline that had some issues with their EMD. They operate in multiple counties and were successful in one county in working with the EMD contact, but not in other counties where they were. So make us aware of that so that we can, we're on calls with state and local officials and also with DHEC. And so, and we rotate. And so we can make sure that we communicate any, difficulties you all are having, at the local level, and they can go down to the county representative and follow up. As I mentioned, we've been unable to procure gowns as well. And so some providers are improvising, making their own. Some are, a provider was able to get some cloth gowns, and they got some guidance from their local DHEC office about washing them and sanitizing them and reusing them. We're not to the point of doing that at the regional centers, so I can't really comment on anything. That's not my area of expertise, not that I have any area of expertise, but all I can do is relay guidance that I've learned through CDC and through some of these calls.
The questioner restated and said he or she meant EMD, not EOC.
All right, perfect. Yeah. And, again, maybe offline or shoot an email to the EOC so that we can follow up. And I can tell you that, at least from my interactions with DHEC and EMD, they have been really great to work with, and they definitely view our system as a part of the healthcare system. And so I think they've made every effort to try to work with DSM boards and qualified providers. So I think that's a plus for us. But I've been very, very pleased with.
We have some creative advice online. We have started purchasing disposable rain ponchos. They are less than $1 and currently available at Walmart.
All right, good advice. And some thermometers. And I don't want to advertise our business, but we even bought some laser thermometers from Lowe's that are used for heating and air and to check temperatures. And we're not qualified licensed medical personnel, but they seem to be just as accurate as the ones that we bought from a medical supplier. And so we have a few of those on hand, and actually we're using that to check for visitors and staff that are actually reporting to the building. To make sure that we're doing our due diligence with respect to social distances and making sure that we have health screening for folks that are showing up on site. And we encourage that in our, we're doing it at regional centers and also in our community residential operations for staff and individuals who happen to go to a hospital and come back. We're checking for signs and symptoms of illness to include regular temperature checks.
And ask any questions. Pat says we don't have any others
Nothing in the queue.
online. I just want to reiterate, I appreciate everything you all are doing. I know it's hard, and I wish we had more answers. I wish we had a money tree that we could just go pick dollars off of. If it wasn't for this FMAP, actually we would be worried about going bankrupt right now. So the fact that we're leaking day program and residential and in-home services ability to bill those services, we were projecting, like I said, less than $1 million cash surplus. That had been wiped out already a long time ago. Hopefully as we learn, I know Mary just met with Josh Baker yesterday, or was it today? Yesterday.
And today.
And we still don't have a solid FMAP number. So, until we get a true legit number, we're basically stuck like y'all are. I mean, I know it's frustrating to not know what the future is going to look like, but we can't even begin to do that until we get more answers ourselves. And to the extent y'all can help one another, and thank you UCP and the whoever commented on the disposable rain gear. Those types of creative things, that's very good. We need to pull together right now and help each other. So we're all trying the best we can up here to do what we can. And we appreciate your feedback and your ideas.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I would just say that, we're doing this once a month, but this is going to be a month with a lot of information decisions and information pulls from the providers. Like, for example, in the day program, we can look at the day program results in March all we want, but we may need a survey to find out what's going on now to see what they are billing out there so we can get some ideas. So I think we'll be talking to you before a month from now on these type of financial issues. So thank you for your patience.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, we will shut this down.
Great.
I appreciate you all. And I know a couple providers have emailed me some things since we've been in the call, and I'll get back to you. And then some of them are good ideas and thoughts, and we'll be sure to share those
Great.
as well.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.